Habitat, habitat, habitat. It's very, very important for trout to have the proper kind of habitat in a stream if they're going to survive. Trout need habitat to spawn. Trout need habitat for overhead cover. The important solid habitat in a stream re-aerates the stream too as water spills over the rocks. Big rocks are very important, boulder and large cobbles for trout to hide behind. Woody debris such as this log going into the stream are very important for trout as overhead cover and a source of food. And more importantly, we like to stress keeping the riparian zone intact. In other words, we like to see a lot of trees along the edge of a river. The trees not only provide root structure and scoured out pools at the base of their trunk, but they also drop leaves into the stream, providing an important source for the food web. So we like to stress to keep habitat in check, and usually we'll have good trout populations where we have good habitat. Now in trout in the classroom, you notice in your tanks that you're adding gravels for the fish, and you're also probably adding some larger structures so fish can hide around and underneath. Also in your tank you might be adding some plastic grasses, some fake submerged aquatic vegetation, and this is good too for trout to swim around and hide from larger fish. So habitat is extremely important. By the way, Jason, tell me how they spawn.
Well, Paul, brook trout need clean gravel to spawn. In October, the females will build the nest at the end of a pool just like this. And they'll pick out a spot with nice clean gravel such as this. Once they've built the small depression using their tails, the males will come by, deposit milt on top of the eggs will be fertilized, and then he leaves. The female stays behind, covers the eggs, and guards the nest for a few days, and then departs. Hey Aaron, what happens next?
Next, the eggs harden, eye up, and around 100 days, swim to the surface. They have many more obstacles to overcome than the fish in your aquariums. They don't have young people like yourselves and your teachers to watch over them or feed them every day. So how exactly do you age these fish, Jason?
Well, it's a pretty cool process. These fish have small bony structures in their head called otoliths, and biologists will actually remove these from the fish, cut them in half, stain them, and then look at them under a microscope. And these otoliths actually have rings just like a tree, and when the biologists count the rings, they can see how old the fish is exactly. Now earlier you were mentioning things about the types of hazards that these fish go through on a daily basis when they're in the wild.
First I'm going to tell you about how brook trout evolved. They started around 10,000 years ago in the last ice age. Brook trout need very cold oxygenated water, and if the water temperatures reach much over 21 degrees Celsius, they can't survive. Can you calculate Celsius to Fahrenheit? Remember, it's very important to protect riparian buffers. The trees that are surrounding the streams provide shelter and shade to keep the water cool. There are a few other hazards that impair brook trout, such as human disturbances, bulldozing throughout the streams, cutting down trees along the riparian area, which warms the streams up, as well as increases silt or also dirt that can smother brook trout eggs and macroinvertebrates.
Aaron, you said something earlier. What was that?
Yeah, macroinvertebrates, you know, bugs.
Just plain old bugs?
Yeah.
What is Paul doing?
I'm not sure. Let's go see.
Aquatic insects are fascinating. Our healthy rivers that support trout also support a wide variety of aquatic insects, such as you see on this whiteboard here. This creature here is a dragonfly trying to crawl away. We have crayfish. We have mayflies with gills fluttering. Snails, water scorpions, fish flies. If you look at aquatic insects, if you study them enough, they fit into different trophic or feeding groups. For instance, this snail here is a scraper, and it will move along a rock, scraping off food just like you would scrape peanut butter off a cracker. Good stuff. We also have predators like the water scorpion, like the fish fly, to attack and eat other aquatic organisms. We also have shredders such as stoneflies that aren't represented here, but as you can see, what stoneflies do to an oak leaf like this oak leaf has been broken down by aquatic organisms, and you can see holes in the oak leaf as well. And if we flip it over, we find that aquatic insects have actually colonized. This mayfly's been on this leaf here, but these are very important in breaking down the leaves that fall into the river into protein for fish to eat and grow.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed your afternoon in Trout in the Classroom's outdoor classroom. It's been a pleasure being out here with Paul and Aaron and Jason, and our cameraman Roger, who, if you'll shake the camera to acknowledge that he's there. No, he's not, oh, there he goes, just a little bit. Okay, we want to thank him tremendously. Today's been about connections. Paul and Aaron and Jason just showed you some of the macroinvertebrates and other wildlife they get, as you will, from the stream. When we go fly fishing, using rods like this, and hopefully you'll see me out in the river in a few minutes because I just can't wait to get out there. Beautiful. We try to catch trout using imitations of the insects that they eat. I brought along some examples for you to see. We have 4 different types of flies. We have a dry fly, which imitates a bug that is hatched or lands on the surface of the water. We have a wet fly, which is an insect representation of something that's hatched but hasn't come up to the surface. We have a nymph, similar to the mayfly that Paul showed you. And then we have a streamer, which imitates a little minnow. Flies come in all sizes, from this very big one to, believe it or not, if you can see it, there's a tiny one right there. When fly fishermen go out on the river, we take along a fly box full of different kinds of flies that represent different insects. These are tied on a hook with thread, feathers, fur, yarn, tinsel, whatever we can use to imitate a fly, or a natural insect in the river by making it a fly. So, this is the end of our biology lesson, as you will. It's almost fishing time for me to get out there. Again, the folks at DGIF and Trout Unlimited want to thank you for being a member of Trout in the Classroom program, and hope you have great success, and look forward to seeing you on a river real soon. It's time for me to go fishing.
A conservation police officer has asked the angler to come ashore for a license check. It's important that trout fishermen have the right licenses so that we can take these monies and put them back into conservation measures across the state.